You're watching Sun TV, broadcasting to the world from studios in Providenciales, in the beautiful binational Turks and Caicos Islands. Sun TV, your source for real news as it happens.
At a time when the world continues to mourn and celebrate the legacy of Nelson Mandela following his passing last week, officials in the Turks and Caicos Islands have pledged to intensify their efforts in the protection of human rights in this country. The renewed commitment to human rights came on Tuesday, December 11th, during a ceremony to mark the opening of the new Human Rights Commission office at IGA Complex. Speakers at the ceremony included Governor Peter Buckingham, Premier Honorable Dr. Rufus Ewing, former Deputy Premier Lillian Boyce, Human Rights Commission Chairperson Doreen Quelch Stubbs, Human Rights Commission member Sophie Stanbrook, Pastor Dennis Swan and Carl Simmons, and Rachel Taylor, president of the Seroptimus Club. The event, which was well attended by a number of prominent persons, coincided with International Human Rights Day and the same day that Nelson Mandela's memorial service was held in his native South Africa. We first hear from Peter Buckingham, who was full of praise for the Human Rights Commission, and he took the opportunity to highlight the 5 areas of human rights to which the UK government attaches special importance.
Human rights is an area that our government attaches in London great importance to. I looked last night at some speeches given by members of the government about human rights to just guide me a little, and we have, as a government in the United Kingdom, detailed 5 particular areas of human rights to which we attach special importance. I'll mention them if I can remember them all. I haven't been sensible enough to list them in front of me, but they are the abolition of the death penalty, which obviously I'm pleased to say doesn't clearly apply in TCI, the freedom of expression, which of course does apply here, although I get the sense, if I can be light on this moment for a moment, that the freedom of expression is certainly something which some people take full advantage of in all sorts of media, and that is a good thing as long as it doesn't become abusive and defamatory. The freedom of religion, and I get the impression here that I've been with Jill to a number of churches that there's certainly no limitation on the freedom of religion in Turks and Caicos, at least I hope so. And then finally 2 others, the rights of women, and I am too young here to yet have a sense for the extent to which discrimination against women does apply in this country, but the fact that the chairperson of your organisation is a woman, the fact that the Deputy Premier is a woman, the fact that there are, I think, 3 members of the Cabinet who are women suggests to me, and the leader of the opposition is a woman, that suggests to me that discrimination against women is something which, while it can't be taken for granted in this country, certainly is moving in very much the right direction. And the final area, and perhaps in a way the most difficult and the most challenging that we as a government have pinpointed, is the treatment of people and the imprisonment unfairly, human trafficking, and the whole area of people being held against their will in all sorts of ways.
Premier Ewing said the TCIG attaches great significance and importance to human rights, adding that the respect and preservation of human dignity are the hallmarks and core elements of a progressive nation.
We can only consider ourselves as being advanced, civilized, and progressive when we respect human dignity and promote human rights. So in that vein, Turks and Caicos, I must say, with the help of successive governments, with the help of the Human Rights Commission, has been a pivotal part of ensuring that Turks and Caicos become that civilized and progressive nation.
He said that his government is committed to ensuring that human rights are upheld in the Turks and Caicos Islands, but much more work still needs to be done.
I must say that my government is indeed committed to ensuring that human rights is one of our key institutions of good governance, is upheld, is well financed. We will ensure that we will work with you as you create the relevant framework, the relevant policies for us to comply with the relevant international conventions from the United Nations, and also to uphold all of those human rights clauses in our Constitution. We're here to support you. We've already begun to show our support in the manner in which we have passed the recent Human Rights Bill that seeks to advance and strengthen and expand the Human Rights Commission. But we have much more work to do.
He noted that the rights of children are of particular concern, as well as the whole question of discrimination in its many different forms.
But in Turks and Caicos, an area of particular concern to us, the rights of the children, protection of the welfare and rights of children. And as a government, we have a lot of legislation on our table that we have to advance and to progress to ensure that our future as a country is preserved. Would like to ask the Human Rights Commissioner to ensure that this building, which now represents the building of the people, without any discrimination of nationalities, race, creed, skin color, language, or any barrier, that this building represents your building, and to encourage persons to use these offices and the members therein to champion their cause.
Former Deputy Premier and Minister for Education and Human Services Lillian Boyce, who was responsible for introducing new human rights legislation while she was in the former PNP cabinet, said there are certain misplaced perceptions about human rights that have to be tackled in the Turks and Caicos Islands.
And so, as we seek to modernize our thinking and our approach to the whole question of human rights, one of the main issues that the human rights directors and we as a people will have to tackle with full force is the misplaced and misguided perception that human rights is about giving foreigners more rights in this country than native people. The message must be sent loud and clear that nothing can be further from the truth. As we seek to create greater awareness, it must be instilled in the minds of all residents of the Turks and Caicos Islands that human rights is about equal rights and justice for all, regardless of nationality, color, class, or creed. Nothing more and nothing less. Essentially, it is about treating others as we would like to be treated. We can even go further and say that it is about treating strangers or guests to our country in much the same way that we would want to be treated in a strange land. Of course, that respect and treatment has to be mutual and balanced. And above all, everything must be done within the four corners of the law.
Mrs. Boyce added that now more than ever, the Turks and Caicos Islands will have to abide by the international law that governs human rights.
I know that Doreen and the human rights directors will agree with me when I say that now more than ever, we in the Turks and Caicos Islands must play fairly and squarely by the international rules and regulations. With today's technology and with social media being so active and fast-moving, the slightest human rights infringement can now spread so rapidly that it can even have serious implications for tourism, for investment, and ultimately our economy and our livelihood. An effective public awareness and public relations strategy, therefore, it has to be developed and kept handy.
The former Minister of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture, who has been a strong advocate for the protection of human rights over the years, also said the Turks and Caicos Islands should strive to preserve the values and principles which Nelson Mandela stood for.
But if there is one thing I want to leave with all of you, it is this. I would like for us in the Turks and Caicos Islands to be among those who will strive extremely hard to seek to keep an eternal flame burning on the core values and strong guiding principle which Mandela stood for. Let us therefore never forget that Mandela fought and stood for equal rights and justice for all and for the poor. Those important elements of life must not be buried with him. We must keep them alive. It is my view that we cannot build a strong economy or a strong democracy in the Turks and Caicos Islands without respecting and upholding human rights.
Mrs. Boyce had special words of praise for Human Rights Commissioner Doreen Quelch-Stubbs.
The record will reflect that we could not have chosen a better person. From then until now, Doreen has continued to demonstrate beyond doubt that she was the best choice for this rather important role. And I am sure that there are countless persons throughout the Turks and Caicos Islands who can attest to this because of the assistance, guidance, and counsel which she offered them in their times of difficulties and challenges. Doreen, I would like to pause and take this opportunity to publicly thank you. Thank you for your outstanding work that you have done in this area.
In her remarks, Human Rights Commissioner Doreen Quelch-Stubbs quoted from a speech of the UN Secretary General, who spoke about the need to intensify efforts to promote and protect the human rights of all people everywhere.
As chairman of the Human Rights Commission, I echo these same sentiments, and I am here to emphasize to us all, government, non-government organizations, stakeholders, Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force, our corporate community, citizens, boys and girls. Let us be vigilant and see the promotion, protection, and the furtherance of our human rights agenda as our collective responsibility. We cannot afford to politicize human rights. We cannot allow our personal feelings to get in the way of our obligations to promote and preserve the human dignity of each and every citizen living in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Promoting human rights is one of the core purposes of the Human Rights Commission, and the Human Rights Commission has pursued this mission since its founding. The mission statement that is posted on the wall, and I'll read it quickly, is that the Turks and Caicos Islands Human Rights Commission is dedicated to upholding the principles of human rights. We aim to encourage and facilitate a positive relationship between government and individuals, and to ensure that the internationally proclaimed standards are protected in law and practice. We are committed to promoting awareness and education, fostering diversity, eliminating discrimination, and providing protection for all people living in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Then, as now, the key to our success is the political will of a government that is determined to uphold the principles of human rights, and in so doing, provide support and financial resources to its national institution, which is the Human Rights Commission, for whom, through our Constitution, has been vested with the power to protect and promote human rights.
Human Rights Commission member Carl Simmons said it was remarkable to know that the new office was opened on the same day the memorial service was held for Nelson Mandela. He added that it was significant that proper legislation is being implemented to protect the rights of all who live in TCI.
And opening this office on the day that one of the most outstanding icons of human protection, on the day that he was memorialized, is some major significance to us here in the Turks and Caicos Islands. It will be remiss of me if we doesn't recognize the government of the Turks and Caicos Islands, the governor's office, for putting together proper legislation so that we could protect the fundamental and basic human rights of all that comes to the shores of these, our Turks and Caicos Islands. And it's remarkable to know that we have cut the ribbon of this institution today so that we can protect, bring awareness to the entire community about their basic human rights.
In her remarks, Sophie Stanberg, Human Rights Commission member, said the TCI can make a difference to the whole question of human rights. She explained some of the work which the Human Rights Commission has been doing and what they intend to do.
Over the past week, the Human Rights Commission members have been visiting senior schools in Providenciales and Grand Turk to make presentations to our young people. It has been an interesting experience and has highlighted the need for much more to be done in schools with the students, the teachers, and the parents. Much more generally needs to be done if we're going to inspire change and make human rights a reality in our country. We as a Commission have adopted 4 strategic objectives, of which education is one, and our intention is to expand these objectives into practical targets, which we will publish and in relation to which the Commission will be accountable. Those objectives are the following: education, bringing human rights to life; implementation, ensuring human rights is at the core of law, policy, and practice. Objective 3 is consultation, entering into a dialogue with our communities, civil society, and our leaders to develop a national action plan for human rights. And the last objective, effectiveness, introducing and maintaining good governance and management of resources in order to effectively be the catalyst for change. To my mind, our first task is that horrid word, consultation, but it is genuinely needed here. The Commission is made up of only five individuals. I do not believe that we have the right to dictate what we, 5 individuals, think the human rights issues are for the Turks and Caicos. We need to engage in a discussion with the people who live here and listen carefully to what is happening on our shores. On the basis of this dialogue, we can then establish a plan of action to address those issues. And I believe this will be our primary activity, hopefully over the next few months.
Well, that's our Sun TV News Brief for today. Join us again tomorrow when we bring you real news as it happens directly to your computer, mobile device, or smartphone. If you know anyone living overseas who would like to keep up with what is happening in the Turks and Caicos Islands, get them to email us at sun@suntci.com so we can add them to our mailing list to get Sun TV News. Thanks for watching. I'm Toddleen Dafferlin.